Lesson number one: nobody cares, nobody does. This is something that we in our early teens tend to think that, what will someone think about if you do something? But the reality is that most people, they don't really have the time to think about what you're doing, and they don't really care about what you're doing. In most cases, the paradox is that everyone thinks what other people think of them, but the thing is, no one's really thinking about you. Everyone's thinking about what other person is thinking about them, but no one is thinking about you. So it's a very weird paradox that goes. And if you just truly accept this, you'll be able to do anything without any form of problems, because most people, they are afraid of other people's judgments and being judged. And if you are able to overcome that fear, you won't have to think about what he or she is going to think about me if I do that. So you're more likely to try things, you're more likely to do things, you're more likely to fail at things, and the more you do these things, the more likely you are to become successful at any of it. Now, the second lesson is a bit harsh, but all your school friends, at least 99% of them, you won't be even talking to them in the next 5 to 10 years. And you might have one or two very good friends, but 99.9% of them, you will not be talking in the next 5 years. Honestly, not even 5 years, in just a few years after you're done, you won't be in touch with them, because everyone has their own things to do, everyone has their own interests, everyone's own life, and they change, they grow, and people evolve, and it's a bit sad. And eventually, initially, you'll feel a bit bad as to why you're losing people, but that is just how it works. That is just how the process goes on. Third lesson that I learned was that you are on your own. Your parents might force you to do things, but the thing is, once you prove it to them that there is something that you truly want to do, and that you can sustain yourself with that, basically you show them that you are getting somewhat success at what you're trying to do, whether that be making videos, whether that be making some form of business that you're trying to start, whatever it is. If you just show them even a bit of success, they will eventually believe in you, and they'll let you do it, because in the end, parents, what they want is your best thing. And the thing is, they consider whatever they have done to be the best thing for the child, because that is technically, in a way, guaranteed to give them at least the life that they themselves have. And that is why it is a secure path. That is why most people, they force their children to do what they have done. They technically not force, but expect their children to do things. If they don't do, they get disappointed, because in their frame of view, what they have done is what got them there. And that is why if you don't do that, your parents basically think you're losing out on an opportunity to get the life that at least you could have had. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is just how parents think. But you need to be able to show it to them that whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can do it, you deserve to do it, and you can sustain yourself while doing it. And once you do that, just for once, just even a bit of success, they will let you do it. That is what happens. The fourth lesson that I learned was anything that does not improve your health, wealth, or wisdom is simply a distraction. Whether that be people, whether that be an event, whether that be an activity, whatever it is, if it does not improve your health, wealth, or wisdom, it is simply a distraction. This sounds a bit harsh, and it is a bit harsh. And honestly, sometimes the distraction is alright, but in most cases, you need to be able to recognize that it is a distraction, and you should not count the things which are distraction as something conducive to your work and success. All right. The fifth lesson that I learned is that you need to choose between instant gratification and gratification 10 years down the line, or 5-10 years down the line, or basically gratification later on. And I'll tell you something, that the latter one is a lot more satisfying and fulfilling than instant gratification, because instant gratification, as the word is self-explanatory, it is very instant. It just lasts for a few seconds. But if you are able to keep that instant gratification away, then the long-term gratification that you will eventually have is going to be, I don't know, I cannot even put it in words. It's going to be so much more fulfilling and satisfying to have that gratification, because you have worked for it. You have delayed your instant gratification for that. You have had the patience to do it, and yeah, it's just very fulfilling feeling that you have. Alright, now how do you do it is something that I'll make a video on eventually. How do you delay instant gratification, and how do you make it that you're able to delay your gratification and think in the long run. But till then, if you want to, because I keep posting a lot more in my newsletter, and I keep doing more in-depth guides and stuff, you can join my newsletter, which is absolutely free, from the first link in the description. Now the sixth one is a bit might sound a bit cliche, but true love does not need physical intimacy. And why I included this is because most of the people in their teenage years, they think that if they are if they are to be loved, or if they have need to have a girlfriend, they need to get involved physically. But that is absolutely wrong. You don't need to do that. You should not do that, because if you do that, you are kind of ruining what you could have. Because technically, biological reproduction is the ultimate goal of us as species. And if you are to do that in your teenage years, technically the signal that goes to your brain is that you have accomplished your main purpose, the main grand vision for what you have been. That is why you will see that, couples or teenagers who get in like physically engaged in their teenage years, their relationship doesn't really last very long, because technically their brain thinks that they have done the ultimate thing that needs to be done. So the motivation from both sides kind of just fades away. Yeah, there are exceptions, of course, to everything, but if you genuinely are in love with someone in your teens, which I'm sorry to say doesn't happen that often, because in most cases it's just infatuation that eventually fades away, and eventually you realize, because the thing is that in your teens you're just growing, you have still not matured, and you have still not become a person that is kind of like concrete. I mean, you don't go concrete, because if you were to go concrete, you would be rendered obsolete. But what I mean, like, you're still learning, you're still evolving, and your value systems are still being developed. And the thing is, people's value systems, they develop and they change. All right, they develop and they change. And the problem is that you can only be with people whose value system aligns with you. You cannot be with people who's, like, for example, if let's say your partner says you want to go to a mountain for a picnic, and you say no, I want to go to a beach, then that's all right, because you both at least want to go outside for the picnic. But let's say if one person is saying I want to go to the mountain, another person is saying no, I want to celebrate picnic at our home, then that's a problem. That's a problem with the value system. So that is why, as in your teenage years, your value systems, it grows and it changes very fast until it kind of reaches a mature form, like somewhere in the 1920s. I'm not saying it doesn't change after that, but the most things, they stay the same. And the person that you become, like morally, ethically, and like religion, culture, and that things wise is what I really mean, that kind of stays the same, right? And that is why it becomes a lot better to pick a partner after that, because you are not going to change in like 1 year or something, and be like, oh, why did I pick this person? So this might sound a bit weird, but it happens, and it has happened with me, and it has happened with a lot of people that I have known. That is why, take my word for it, is not really necessary to have a girlfriend or anything like that in your teens. Just work and focus on what needs to be done, and eventually the right person who you need to be with will come to you. Don't chase the butterfly. Plant a garden so that you can attract the butterfly. Now, the seventh lesson that I learned was that you don't need accountability partners or accountability groups or anything like that to really achieve anything that you really, really want to achieve. You don't need study groups to get good marks. You don't need gym groups to go to the gym. You don't need coding groups or coding cohorts to learn coding. You don't need any groups, cohorts, or anything like that. It's absolute bullshit. This is just forms of resistance that manifests itself. And this is something that demands a very detailed video on the topic, and I will be making that soon. But basically, in a nutshell, if I were to say, this groups, study groups, cohorts, and all these things, these are basically distractions. These are basically a shiny object. These are proxy work, because if you really want to do something, you'll just simply start doing it. Why do you need a accountability group to make you do that, right? Because the problem is, people don't like doing the work. People don't like studying. People don't like working. People don't like many things. Like, of course, I can understand with this for the thing, like studying. Of course, it's boring. I understand, but for something that it is that you want to do, for example, losing weight, like, and this is what we call the shiny object. Because if you could really do the real work, and if you were to sit down and do the real work, your brain will try to not do the work and try to distract you by saying that, oh, you need accountability group, or you need someone to keep you accountable. And the thing is, these are all forms of resistance, and they distract you from the real work, because they are the shiny object. Because when you have a group, you can talk to them, and whenever you encounter discomfort or this like difficult feeling that you need to face, you can just simply go revert back to your group, right? And that is why it just works. It just, the form of resistance works, because you never really get the work done. All you're doing is talking about the thing, you're planning and strategizing, but you are not really doing what needs to be done. And unless you do what needs to be done, it's not going to get done. It's only getting delayed. The next lesson that I learned, which is also kind of linked to the previous one, is that we don't procrastinate to avoid the work, we procrastinate to avoid the pain that comes with doing the work. Like for example, right now I was avoiding recording this video. I was technically procrastinating recording this video, and the reason is because if I would record it, I would have to edit it, and I would then have to upload it. And then I had also had the next video planned that I also had to record, but I'm a bit short on time because I've got some work in the morning, and it's 12:50 a.m. in the morning right now, and that is why my brain didn't want me to like do that much of work and just sleep, and that is why I was trying to make me sleep and make me feel that I'm tired, because if I would not record this video, then I would not have a video to edit and then not upload, and then the next video that I would have, since I would have no momentum, I would not do that as well. And so my brain was trying its level best, but sadly I recognize its move, and I was like, hey, I can see what you're trying to do, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm just going to record the video. And so I started. So yeah, there's that, I guess. And the thing is, it's going to be painful, the work that you're trying to do. It's very understandable, but just being aware that what you're trying to procrastinate is not really the work. It's not like, for example, recording this video. What is it about the recording the video that's painful? Is talking painful? No, talking is not painful at all. Is looking at my bullet points that I have in Obsidian here, is that painful? No, it's not painful. Is talking to the camera painful? No, it's not painful. Is editing the video painful? No, it's not painful. Like literal physical pain. Do I get any like source of pain from? No, it's not. But my brain knows that doing these things, it creates a different action, something that's not very conducive to my current self, and so the identity of my current self is threatened, and that is why, to save the current self's identity, my brain tries to stop me from doing it, so that the current self can continue to exist. And this is basically called the concept of the undiscovered self by Carl Jung. You can Google about it. I'll be making a very dedicated video on this very, very soon, before 2024 ends, actually, because I want 2025 to be one of the best years for your life, so that you really have a very good understanding, and you can actually like do the things that needs to be done. But before that, as I already previously mentioned, you can join my newsletter. I keep talking about different things there, and this is one of them. So yeah, letting go of people is one of the most important skills that you'll need to learn. And yeah, it is really a skill. Now I know you might be wondering, why did I call it a skill? Because people is the only thing, or I think it sounds a bit weird, like basically what I mean is the only thing that you don't control in your life is the people who come and go out of your life. That is something that you have no direct control over. Yet to some extent you can control by restricting the places that you visit and you don't visit, and but even that is kind of difficult in your teens, because you need to go to the school, you need to go to college or whatever, until you make your thing. If there is something that you really want to, like for example business something, you make that work, right? And even after that, you don't really control who comes and goes in your life. So this is just one aspect that you don't really have a direct control over. And there will be many people, in fact 95% of the people, who might not be trustworthy, who might not be deserving of your attention, care, and whatever it is that a good relationship, a good healthy relationship demands. But and that is why you will eventually have to let go of them, otherwise otherwise it's simply not going to help you. I don't have any other words to put it honestly, because I guess I read a quote somewhere that if you don't end the story is going to end you. Like it sounds very absurd, but if you don't end the story will eventually come to an end, and you'll be the one dying, because the problem is that people are selfish. Because the problem is, most people in your life, as harsh as this sounds, are only there till the point that they have some form of benefit from you, and once they lose that, they are going to walk away without giving a damn. And that is just how the world works. So it's nothing to be sad or afraid about, but you need to be aware of that. Now the next lesson I learned is from Bhagavad Gita, and it was somewhat linked to the previous one. That is that detachment from things and from people is very, very important, and it is something that you need to master. And I'm not saying that I have mastered it, but this is something that I have learned in my teenage years, and I am very, very grateful that I learned it, because everything and anything that you own right now will eventually come to an end, will eventually disappear from your life. Whether that be people, whether that be things, whether that be your own body, everything is going to come to an end eventually. and that is why it becomes very, very important to become detached. And Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says in Hindi, and I will also translate it to English for the people who don't understand Hindi. He says that, actually it's written in Sanskrit, it's not said in Hindi, but like it's said like this, that ना ही तो ये शरीर तुम्हारा है, ना ही तो तुम इस लोक के हो, जो तुम्हारा है वो सिर्फ तुम्हारे कर्म है, एंड तुम्हारा जो ये शरीर है वो 5 तत्वों से बना है, आग, जल, वायु, पृथ्वी और आकाश, और एक दिन इन्हीं 5 तत्वों में जाके मिल जाएगा. And for the people who didn't understand Hindi, basically our Bhagavad Gita, it says, and it's said by Lord Krishna actually, that the body is made up of these 5 elements: fire, air, water, sky and earth, and eventually it will dissolve into these 5 elements. And that is why all you own and all you can do is your own karma. And that is why, now I don't mean it like on a monkish level, that it's not really possible that you become completely like stoic, and I'm not saying that this is absolutely something like that, but it is a way of living, it's a philosophy. And that is why if you will see that most people who like the matrix, the thing that people talk about, is that people get so attached to stupid things like iPhone. Like, I'm not calling iPhone stupid, like I'm not calling that thing, I own a MacBook, the product in itself is good, but people get so attached to their phones that they forget what is the real work, what is the real meaning behind everything, what is the real purpose behind buying that phone. You cannot really get that attached with a piece of metal and glass. Like, what if you think about iPhone or MacBook or whatever it is just a piece of metal and glass. Alright, but people get so attached to those things and just forget about the real work. And if you're going to get so much attached to things that don't really matter, how are you going to focus on your work, and how are you going to focus on things that really matter? That is why detachment is very, very important. And yes, it is not possible. We are human beings, we have got emotions, we have got feelings, and it is not like possible for us to like completely get detached and not feel anything. I'm not saying that, but it is a way of living. Detachment is a way of living. These are philosophies of life which, if you abide by, I personally feel that your life, and personally my life, has been a lot better and a lot happier, a lot more content, and a lot fulfilling than what I have seen the life of my people of my own age. The next lesson that I learned is that don't confuse going to school with learning, because anything and almost everything that you learn in school is going to be rendered obsolete eventually, until and unless you decide to become a white collar professional. Now, I know you might have some arguments as to some things that you learn in school might actually be useful. Yeah, that might be correct to some extent, but the thing is that most of the things that you learn in school are useless, and like they don't really help you with anything. And the thing is that the education system, the schooling system that it was created, is not created with good intentions as people think. It was created with very dark purpose. And if you go and study the origins of schooling system, you will see that it was not meant to create educated professionals. It was meant to create factory workers, to be exact, factory workers for John D. Rockefeller. All right, and yeah, eventually you also have good things like doctors and everything. And I don't deny that is a good aspect of it. But what if someone, not everyone wants to become a doctor, not everyone wants to become an engineer, not everyone has their own thing. And that is why you will see that after the modern education system got popular, like this is a real data, you can just search for it on Google, the number of innovation and number of new discoveries that has been made in any field has just plummeted, because everyone was forced to become a doctor or engineer or whatever like that. All right, so the next lesson is also linked to previous, and that is read books. Read as many books as you can, because books are probably one of the best things that exist, and reading books is probably the best investment on time you can make. And it is the one short thing that is going to give you return. If not today, tomorrow, or next month, or next year, it will give you return eventually in your life. All right, and especially non-fiction. I don't mean fiction. Yeah, there are a few good fiction books, but I have not read I've just read one fiction book. It is called Time Travel, I guess, by H.G. Wells, and it was absolute garbage. I didn't like it. It was very boring. And that is why since then I have just hated fiction, and I don't really like reading fiction. Now, of course, there are some good books, like I have not really read them, but I would recommend start with non-fiction and read non-fiction. Read world conquerors, read people who are successful, read biographies, read biographies of Elon Musk, read biography of Steve Jobs, read biography of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, read Niccolo Machiavelli, read Socrates, read Marcus Aurelius. Read all these people, study all these people, study their way of thinking, study their way of living, study their philosophies. Alright, because if you just see and learn from the very successful people who are world conquerors, who were the best when they were alive, alright, and you just learn from them and apply to what is it that you're doing, you are going to be successful. It is a no-brainer thing. Next lesson I learned is also related to books. Now, as I said, I personally think books are the best thing to exist and the best investment that you can possibly make. And that is why the next lesson that I learned also related to books is that don't buy books just because they're a bestseller or just because they are on some random website's top 5 or top 10 list. And that is because many of these like websites or pages or that you'll see, like, it is a bit obvious right now, but when I was a bit young, I was naive and I didn't know that these things happen. I used to buy by seeing, sometimes I bought by just seeing the top 5 and everything, and there were very horrible books that are rated so-called bestsellers, which I didn't really like. For example, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. I found that book very, very boring. Like, I didn't really understand a lot, and I didn't really enjoy that book as well. Now, like, it is a good book. I think the problem was that my current stage does not align with the philosophy of that book. Like, it is a book that you can eventually read to expand your knowledge and you learn like general sophistication, but it, like, at this point of time, I think reading Elon Musk's biography or Steve Jobs' biography, which I had read, by the way, I had already read Steve Jobs' biography, but reading, let's say, Warren Buffett's biography or Warren Buffett's letter to his shareholders or studying Marcus Aurelius would have made a lot more sense than reading 12 Rules of Life. Alright, and that is one lesson I learned, that don't just pick up books just because they're on some bestsellers list or anything like that. Alright, read what you love until you love reading, and then just read and study world conquerors. Next lesson I learned is that keep a journal, track your life, measure it, and note it down, because there's nothing more fulfilling and satisfying than seeing yourself progress. Like, seeing and coming back to what you were a few days ago, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and eventually a few years ago, and seeing what you have become right now. No more feeling which is more satisfying than this, because you realize that even if you think you have not made any progress, you have made some progress, and that feeling of progress is the most satisfying thing. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, of course it will be a bit difficult, and you will eventually have to decide how much is it that you want to journal. Like, for example, I eventually tried to do it one day every day, like one time every day, but that didn't really work for me. So I came to like once in a week, like at the end of the week, and that is what I have stuck to. And I have been journaling since, like, I guess almost 2.5 to 3 years at this point. And when I go and look back at the earlier entries and see what I wrote and what I was and what I now, even me thinking like I'm nothing right now, I have come a long way. And seeing yourself progress and become a new person, which is a lot healthier and better version of what you were a few years back, there's nothing more fulfilling and satisfying than that. The next lesson that I learned is that study successful people. Don't study what Bill Gates does right now. Study what Bill Gates does before he became Bill Gates, or before, especially what made him Bill Gates. Don't study Jeff Bezos' morning routine that he wakes up at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. right now. He takes Saturdays, Sundays off right now. No, go and study what he did before he became a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur, because that is what made him that. If you're going to copy what they are doing right now, you are not a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur. All right. Well, if you are, then that's very great. But, well, if you are not, then doing what Bill Gates does now will not make you that. But if you want to do what Bill Gates did before he became a multi-billion-dollar entrepreneur, you are very likely to become one. All right. Not by simply, if Bill Gates started Microsoft and just start. No, it's not like that. You just take the principles and you apply to what you're doing, because the rules, the strategies, the techniques might change, but the principles always stay the same. That is why they are principles. The next lesson is that don't take things personally, because, well, if you do that, it kind of comes and becomes attached to the point I mentioned about detachment and everything earlier, because doing so will only make you unhappy and upset, because you cannot really control what people tell you, you cannot control what people say about you or think about you. So the best thing to do is that don't take those things personally and don't take it literally, and just do your thing. The best lesson, or should I say one of the best lessons, is that if you really want something and if you really tried to get it and you still don't get it and you still haven't achieved it, then most likely you still don't deserve it and you need to try more, or simply the time that you currently are in is not the right time to have it. And this is something that I learned after a lot of not getting the things that I wanted, because I realized that eventually, a few months or maybe a few years later, that whatever I was it is whatever it was that I was wanting was not good for me, and I did not deserve it at that point. And had it come at that point, I would have lost it all. And in some cases, even if I got those things later on, I realized, okay, it was not really good for me. And this is not really for anything. It could be a person, it could be a goal, it could be a thing, it could be a car, it could be a watch, it could be anything. And that is why you need to look at things objectively and need to be able to answer these questions as to, is it something that you really deserve it? Have you really worked for it? And is it something that, the time frame that you currently are in, that stage that you currently are in, is the right time stage to have that thing? Alright, these are very, very important questions that you must know. And with that being said, I'll see you soon.